Hi everybody, my name is Nicki. Welcome to my channel. For those who are new, I am an author and an editor, and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the other things I love. Now, for those of you who subscribe to my channel, you may have seen my video yesterday where I just talked in general about my bullet journal. Today I've just got another short video for you where I'm going to really zoom in and talk about how I use my bullet journal for monitoring my writing. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump down to the pages and let them speak for themselves, and I'll explain my four main writing spreads for you. So I'm now concentrating on how I use my bullet journal to keep track of my writing. So I've got four spreads to show you here. The first one, as you'll see, is my book release tracker. So once I have contracted a book, I don't self-publish very often, but if I was self-publishing, the same would apply. I pop the title here, whether or not it's in an anthology or a standalone, publisher, release date, any details for dates for cover reveal or blog tour. And then as we move through the pre-production process, I have things to tick off here. So a note of signing contracts, dealing with any paperwork, moving into edits, so crossing off different stages of editing. Then things like preparing social media promotional images. I do excerpts on Tableau as a written excerpt. I do audio excerpts and YouTube excerpts for all my new releases, so preparing all those is on the list here. I also prepare media sheets if it's a novella or a novel. Organising the blog tour, sending out review copies, sending out all the guest post material if people are hosting me. And then things like the release date updates, making sure everything's up to date on Amazon, Goodreads and the like. So I just find this really handy. It's a nice way just for me to keep track of where we are, what stage we're at in the process for each publication, so that I know if things are running on track, or if maybe I haven't heard from the publisher and it's getting close and I need to check something with them. It's just a little spark to remind me about that, and just makes me ensure that I haven't left everything to the last minute and it's not the day before release day and I haven't prepared any promotion and things like that. So that's one that I find really, really helpful. Moving along, I have here a whips tracker. So this is just, again, a way for me to keep track where I'm up to. I usually do have 2 or 3 projects on the go at one time. One might be in edits as I get ready to submit while I start another one. So again, I can just pop in a title, whether it's for an anthology, the publisher, length, genre, a due date if it's a submission call and I have to have it done by a certain day. It's good to have a little note of that as a memory jog. And then I can tick off as I complete various drafts, proofread, submission, and any minor notes that I might want to put in. Again, this one's really useful, just as I said, to keep track of where you are with everything, because it is easy, particularly when you've got lots of works on the go, to try and remember what stage you're up to with them. So you want to just have it all nicely written out and make it clear. And finally, 2 little ones here. So the royalties tracker is pretty self-explanatory. I think I've got my publishers listed here, and then I can just tick off the months when I'm receiving royalties from them. And when you're like me and you're with a few different publishers, it can be easy just to not notice when you haven't been paid for a while. And I would say most of my publishers are very good, but there are 1 or 2 that get a bit behind sometimes. So it is always handy just to be able to look back and see, when did I last get paid by them? And it's been a few months, maybe a payment's due and perhaps I should follow up if it hasn't come. So that's just a little one there. But as I said, most of mine from whom I'm getting regular payments, who I've got a lot of stories with, they're all pretty good at sending stuff on time, which is awesome. And finally, completed stories. Sometimes you write a story and maybe you submit it and it doesn't get picked up by anyone initially, or you write a story and perhaps you haven't got anywhere particular to send it. I've got a little collection of short stories plus a couple of novellas where there just hasn't been anywhere suitable for them yet. But they're still decent stories. They're pretty much finished. They might need a minor tweak depending on how and when I eventually decide to submit them, but essentially they're done. So I thought it was handy just to have a little place where I could know all of those, just with the title, the genre and the word count, just so if I see a call come up and they say, oh, we want stories set in Australia, and I can think to myself, oh, I've got a contemporary romance set in Australia, I'll whip it out, see if it's going to be suitable. So those are my main little spreads there for writing. I guess the ones that you are maybe less inclined to put in here are things like my publication tracker. So I will just tell you about that briefly. I'll just revert back to being on the screen while I explain to you what I do with that and why I don't do that in the bullet journal, why I do it on Excel. Hi everyone, just a brief interlude before I jump into the section I promised, talking about my publication spreadsheet. And I just realised now I'm editing these videos that I forgot to include one of my spreads to show you to do with writing. So I'm just filming this very quick pickup on my webcam, so sorry that the quality will jump down a bit from the rest of the video, but I just wanted to quickly share it, and it's only going to take me a minute or so, so I didn't want to set all the camera off again. So the one I forgot to mention was that in addition to my ongoing writing spreads, I also like to put together a spread for any book tours that I do in terms of new releases. So if I'm planning a blitz or a 1-week tour for any of my forthcoming novellas or novels, I set up a page or half a page as necessary in my bullet journal to keep track of who has offered to help and who's going to be posting when, what sort of post they're doing, whether they just want a promo post, whether they need me to send them a guest blog or answer interview questions, and that just gives me somewhere I can keep track and check off. So my last really major release that I did a week-long, tour for was last year, but I've had some that I've just done 3-day blitzes on this year. So this is basically what I've put together for those. So I have the 3 days of the blitz. This one took place back in March. A note of who is posting on which day, what they're posting, a note when I've sent stuff to them, and another note to mark off when I see their post go live. And I've got Beastly Businessman here, which is coming out in July, so I'll be doing exactly the same thing for that one. And when Super For You, Bad For Me comes out in August, that one is going to be a slightly longer tour. It's a big major release for me, the biggest release of the year. So I'm going to probably have a 1-page, maybe even 2-page spread, depending on how long I decide to run the tour for that one. So anyway, I just wanted to pop those in as well because I'd forgotten to mention them. So I will now move on to the bit I promised, talking about the Excel spreadsheet I use for keeping track of my publications in general. So those are my main writing spreads. What I did want to just talk to you about though is my publication records. Now I do also like to keep track of all the books that I've published, and I like to know when did they come out, how long the terms of the contract are, things like if I got an advance, when that was paid, who did the cover design, and all other sorts of information like that. Now I could record those in my bullet journal in a spread, it would be very easy to do, but there's a simple reason I don't, and that's that obviously I update my bullet journal, I get a new book every year. And for the publication history, you don't want to have to keep filling in all the same publications year after year. And it is handy to be able to have one place to go just to see what dates you've got for contracts running out and things like that. So for that, it is much easier to do it in an online spreadsheet. I use just an Excel spreadsheet on my computer, and that just gives me one place to track it. So it's not that I've got information one year and then it ends up in my back of a drawer and then I've got a new one, but I have to keep going back to look at the old one. That particular spread just doesn't work with bullet journal, which is why I still do it there. And I also track my finances in a spreadsheet as well. And the reason for that is pretty obvious, because I can do the sums in Excel, it adds it all up. So come tax time and things, it's really easy to see what my earnings were, what my spendings were. I've just got it all in one easy to find, easy to read spot. I can just do a print off ready for tax and that's it. Whereas that kind of monitoring in bullet journal, you could do it, but again, you'd then be having to copy out information again, and it's not as easy. I like to have a spreadsheet for each financial year, and financial years in Australia run from July to June. So that would be like in the middle of 2 bullet journals for me, which doesn't really work very well. Plus I like to also, as well as my financial year spreadsheet, I like to have an ongoing overall total, how much have I spent and how much have I earned from my writing. So being able to pull all those from the different sheets and have all the figures at my fingertips in one spot is a lot easier than having to keep referring back to books. So that is why I use my bullet journal in the way I do with my writing. I do find it a huge help in terms of keeping track of where I am with projects. So do you use your bullet journal for writing? If so, drop me a comment, tell me about it. What sort of spreads do you like? If you haven't got a bullet journal but you're considering it, you want to ask any questions, drop those below too and I will do my very best to answer them for you. If you've enjoyed this video, if you've seen some others on my channel you like, please, please, please subscribe. I'd love to see you all come back regularly and be able to talk to you about all the things I love. And it just means that you'll get a bit of notice when I post a new one, and click on that little bell button as well and make sure that YouTube tells you when my new videos go up. I do post roughly once a week, sometimes twice. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to go now and try to dry my hair out a bit more. Sorry, I'm still a bit damp, but I will see you all again next time with another vlog. Bye for now, everyone.